For my methodology, how I collected these semi-structured interviews, I conducted them through Zoom, right? And I only did three. They were about 45 minutes long. Then I proceeded with annotations. I did 2 cycles of the Saldana coding and the Beaver coding. I used a part about the grounded theory also to find like emerging theories within the interviews to kind of like craft a narrative of what their coming out story was and what were like the major themes that I found relevant. So again, the data collection, I did 3 interviews. I coded interviews and memos. I used in vivo, and then I also used a lot of critical reflection to kind of see where I was as a researcher, but how I was interpreting. And so just I feel like that keeps me grounded of how I'm doing this work and what I'm thinking, right? Puts me in check with my own privileges as a researcher. And so the major themes that I found was patriarchy, heteronormativity, homophobia, capitalism. And although these were really major themes, each family embodied or interpreted these value systems very differently. And obviously that's because of the hybridity within the family. It really shapes the attitudes family members are going to have. And so I did the 3 narratives so quickly, I'm just going to show you some of the codes. And basically, one of the narratives, the emphasis was on capitalist family values. And so basically, I pulled out this quote because at one point, after it's revealed to her father, she's never had a conversation with her father, by the way, and that's a thread throughout all 3 interviews, is a silence with talking or disclosing to fathers. And so her father actually suggests buying her a penis. So actually the thought of buying somebody's identity so he could have a son, right? And so it was done kind of more maliciously. It wasn't for like to accept them as a lesbian. It was to basically say, if you want to be a man, I'll make you a man. And then another experience was with Vero, who's actually more performative in their gender identity. So once they came out, they were more freer to express a more masculine identity. However, that was a conflict. It wasn't necessarily their queer identity, it was more their gender identity because the family was heavily religious. They were Pentecostal. And the last interview, although the person said that their family was more open and more liberal, there was still a lot of silence around identity within the family, and they still, at some point, did experience a type of rejection. And so, in all of these 3 interviews, the way these Latinas really navigate and negotiate family, differentiate because rejection takes a lot of different forms. It can be verbal or nonverbal. And so I would argue or suggest that Latinx families are shaped by different attitudes and beliefs that complicate sexual orientation disclosure and queer visibility. And thus, this means that being queer and being Latina, what it means at these intersections really means negotiating the level of outness within the familial space. So being intentional. And then this was a short study, to fulfill this class. It wasn't IRB approved or anything, so that's something that in the future I would like to do a longer study